The world awoke to a jolt news that Iran had successfully launched an exoatmospheric missile. This wasn't just another test, it was a bold signal of Iran's growing military reach. The launch, confirmed by Western intelligence, marks a turning point in the standoff between Iran and its adversaries. For years, the focus was on Iran's nuclear ambitions, but a warhead is only as threatening as its delivery system. Now, Iran has demonstrated it can send a payload into space and back with precision. This leap suggests Tehran's ambitions stretch far beyond the region, potentially threatening nations thousands of miles away. The timing is critical. Global tensions are high, and Iran's partnership with Russia has only emboldened its military advances. This test is not an isolated event, it's part of a broader, more assertive Iranian strategy. Intelligence agencies are scrambling to analyze the missile's capabilities, but the political reality is clear. A new line has been crossed. The development forces a re-evaluation of defense strategies and diplomatic approaches worldwide. Iran's technological progress will reshape the security landscape in the Middle East and beyond. The world now faces a more capable and potentially more dangerous Iran. The stakes for international peace and security have never been higher. The challenge is no longer theoretical, it's here. What is an exoatmospheric missile? Unlike traditional missiles, these travel into space before returning to Earth at blistering speeds. The journey requires powerful multi-stage rockets and advanced engineering to survive both launch and re-entry. The warhead must endure extreme heat and pressure as it plunges back through the atmosphere. No small feat. The advantage? Range and speed. Such missiles can strike targets across continents, making them nearly impossible to intercept. Even the most advanced missile defense systems struggle to counter a warhead falling from space. Iran's successful test shows it's mastering these complex technologies, multi-stage rocketry, guidance, and re-entry vehicles. This places Iran among a select group of nations with intercontinental missile capability. The exoatmospheric test is a gateway to building ICBMs, the preferred delivery system for nuclear weapons. It's a game-changer for global security. The world must now contend with a new level of threat from Tehran. Iran's progress is no longer theoretical, it's operational. The implications for deterrence and coercion are profound. The balance of power is shifting. Iran's missile launch is a seismic event for global security. It extends Iran's threat far beyond its neighbors, putting Europe and even the US within potential range. The link between Iran's missile and nuclear programs is now undeniable. An ICBM with a nuclear warhead is an existential threat, not just a regional one. This capability gives Iran new leverage, deterring attacks and pressuring rivals for concessions. The launch could spark a new arms race, encouraging other nations to pursue similar weapons. North Korea's ICBM program changed the diplomatic landscape. Iran's could do the same. Diplomacy with Tehran just became much harder, as any future talks must now address both nuclear and missile issues. Iran's refusal to negotiate on missiles will only harden. The world faces a more complex, dangerous challenge. The stakes for non-proliferation have never been higher. The threat is no longer hypothetical. In Washington, Iran's launch triggered immediate condemnation and urgent analysis. US intelligence is dissecting every detail to determine if this is a true ICBM prototype. The Pentagon is reassessing missile defenses in Europe and the Middle East, and calls for increased defense spending will intensify. The challenge of intercepting such missiles is daunting. Current systems may not be enough. Diplomatically, the US will push for a unified response with allies and likely impose new sanctions targeting Iran's missile program. Yet, sanctions alone may not halt Iran's progress. New strategies are needed. The administration faces a dilemma: escalate militarily or double down on diplomacy to prevent conflict. Some will argue for strength, others for negotiation. Both paths carry risks. The decision will shape America's role in the Middle East and its global standing. The stakes are enormous and the margin for error is slim. The world is watching Washington's next move. The response must be swift and smart and unified. The future of deterrence is on the line. For Israel, Iran's missile test is an existential threat, not a distant one. Israeli intelligence will urgently reassess the timeline for Iran's nuclear breakout. The test may push Israel closer to considering preemptive action, a move fraught with risk. Israel's missile defenses, though advanced, face new challenges against hypersonic re-entry vehicles. The pressure on Israeli leaders to act will only grow. Europe, now within range, can no longer afford complacency. European governments will face calls for tougher security measures, and closer alignment with the US. NATO's missile defense posture will shift to account for threats from the south. Intelligence sharing between Europe, the US and Israel will intensify. Diplomatic protests will be paired with quiet military preparations. The E3, France, Germany and the UK, will demand transparency from Iran. Europe must now confront a security challenge it hoped to manage through negotiation. The threat is immediate and real. The UN Security Council will convene to address Iran's missile launch. Resolution 2231, tied to the Iran nuclear deal, is at the heart of the debate. Western nations argue Iran's missile advances violate the spirit, if not the letter, of the resolution. Iran insists its missiles are for conventional defense, not nuclear delivery. The US, UK and France will push for condemnation and new sanctions, but Russia and China are likely to block strong action. This division exposes the UN's limitations. Debate is certain, decisive action is not. The International Atomic Energy Agency will face pressure to intensify inspections in Iran. The IAEA's reports will carry new weight in Security Council deliberations. The missile test blurs the line between nuclear oversight and military threat. The UN remains a vital forum, but its power is constrained by great power rivalry. The world must look beyond the UN for real solutions. The diplomatic challenge is more complex than ever. The stakes for global security are rising. The world now faces a crossroads after Iran's missile test. One path leads to escalation, more tests, covert actions, and the risk of war in a region vital to the global economy. Another path is renewed diplomacy, but it demands unprecedented compromise from all sides. The most likely outcome may be a tense stalemate, with Iran holding its new capability as a deterrent. This could trigger a slow arms race in the Middle East, with rivals seeking their own advanced weapons. The region would be locked in a cold war of proxy conflicts and cyber attacks. The consequences reach far beyond diplomats and generals. Ordinary people worldwide would feel the impact. Rising energy prices, instability, and new refugee crises. The spread of nuclear-capable missiles raises the risk of catastrophe for everyone. The world must decide how to fill the security vacuum Iran's launch has created. The choices made now will shape global security for years to come. The stakes are nothing less than the future of peace. The challenge is urgent and universal.